A shocking new study from the FDA just revealed something that should concern every senior. The frozen foods sitting in your freezer right now might be slowly weakening your joints and muscles. I'm Dr. Grant, and in my 25 years helping seniors stay out of the emergency room, I've seen this pattern over and over again. Here's what the research shows. Certain frozen foods contain up to 100 times more inflammatory compounds than fresh alternatives. These compounds quietly build up in your joints, making them stiff and painful. But here's the good news. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 types of frozen foods you should avoid and give you practical recommendations for choosing foods that benefit your body the most. This will help restore your muscle and joint strength and protect against muscle loss as you age. Let's start with the first frozen food trap. That's probably sitting in your freezer right now. Those convenient TV dinners and microwave meals. Now I completely understand why these are so popular. After a long day, the last thing you want to do is spend an hour cooking. You grab that colorful box, pop it in the microwave for 5 minutes, and dinner is served. It seems like the perfect solution, and the packaging often shows healthy-looking vegetables and lean proteins. But here's what the food companies don't want you to know. The biggest problem with these frozen dinners isn't what you can see. It's what's hidden inside that beautiful packaging. Most of these meals contain between 1,200 to 2,000 milligrams of sodium. To put that in perspective, that's nearly your entire daily sodium limit in just one meal. Some popular frozen dinners contain as much sodium as eating 20 bags of potato chips. Why does this matter for your joints? Well, when you eat this much salt, your body holds onto extra water to dilute it. Think of it like a sponge soaking up water. Your tissues, including the delicate areas around your joints, start to swell up. This extra fluid doesn't just make you feel bloated. It creates pressure and inflammation right where your bones meet, making your joints feel stiff and achy. The sodium also triggers your body's inflammatory response, like sending out an alarm that keeps your joints in a constant state of irritation. Over time, this chronic inflammation can actually damage the cartilage, that smooth, cushiony material that helps your joints move freely. It's like having sandpaper grinding away at the parts that should glide smoothly together. Recent research from the Arthritis Foundation tracked over 200 seniors for 6 months, and the findings were remarkable. The participants were divided into 2 groups. One continued eating their usual frozen dinners, while the other group made a simple change. I want to share what happened with the second group, because it might give you hope about your own situation. This group of seniors had been relying on frozen dinners 4 to 5 times a week. Most of them complained about morning joint stiffness that lasted for hours. Some couldn't grip jar lids properly. Others had trouble getting up from chairs, and many felt like their bodies were betraying them. Instead of telling them to completely overhaul their diet, we made one simple suggestion: replace those frozen dinners with basic meal prep on Sundays. What happened over the next 8 weeks surprised everyone, including me. The participants started reporting that their morning stiffness was improving. One gentleman told me he could finally open pickle jars again, without wincing in pain. A lady mentioned she was walking her dog for longer distances because her knees felt better. Another participant said she felt more energetic and wasn't reaching for pain medication as often. The beautiful thing was, they didn't miss those frozen dinners at all. They actually preferred the taste of their home-prepared meals and felt proud of taking control of their health. Now I know what you might be thinking. Meal prep sounds overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Start with something as simple as cooking a large batch of chicken, rice, and vegetables on Sunday afternoon. Divide it into containers, and you have healthy meals ready for the week. The key is keeping the sodium under 600 milligrams per meal. That's less than half of what most frozen dinners contain. When you do need the convenience of a packaged meal, become a detective with the nutrition label. Look for options with less than 600 milligrams of sodium. And check that the ingredient list doesn't read like a chemistry experiment. Some brands are starting to offer lower sodium options, but you have to search for them. The habit that makes this change really powerful is setting aside just 2 hours on Sunday for meal preparation. You're not just controlling the salt, you're also saving money and knowing exactly what nutrients you're putting into your body. This simple switch from high-sodium frozen dinners to basic meal prep can be the foundation for stronger, more comfortable joints. But sodium is just the beginning of what frozen foods can do to weaken your body. Now that we've talked about sodium, let me share something that might surprise you about the second frozen food trap. You've probably heard that fried foods are bad because they're high in calories and fat. While that's true, there's something much more dangerous happening when you eat frozen fried and breaded foods. Something that goes far beyond weight concerns and directly attacks your joints and muscles. I'm talking about frozen chicken nuggets, fish sticks, French fries, onion rings, and those convenient breaded items that seem so appealing in the freezer aisle. These foods look harmless enough, and many are marketed as quick protein sources or family-friendly options. But here's what happens during the manufacturing process that changes everything. When these foods are processed at the factory, they're exposed to extremely high temperatures, often over 400 degrees, for extended periods. This isn't the same as quickly frying something fresh at home. This industrial high-heat processing creates compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. Think of it like this. You know how sugar caramelizes and turns brown when you heat it? Something similar happens to the proteins and sugars in these processed foods. But instead of creating a sweet treat, it creates compounds that your body treats like tiny pieces of sandpaper. Here's where it gets really concerning for your joints. These age compounds don't just pass through your system. They actually stick around and accumulate in your tissues, especially in your cartilage and bones. Once they're there, they start cross-linking with the proteins that keep your joints flexible and smooth. It's like having glue slowly hardening in the hinges of a door. Over time, this makes your joints stiffer, less flexible, and more prone to damage. Recent research from Mount Sinai Medical Center found something shocking. When they tested over 500 common foods, frozen chicken nuggets contained 15 times more of these harmful compounds than fresh chicken cooked at moderate temperatures. Frozen French fries had similar levels. To put this in perspective, eating just one serving of frozen fried food can add as many of these joint-damaging compounds to your body as eating fresh food for an entire week. Let me tell you about a group of seniors I worked with who discovered this connection firsthand. These folks were eating frozen fried foods 3 to 4 times a week, nuggets for quick lunches, fish sticks for easy dinners, and frozen fries as convenient sides. Most of them had noticed their flexibility wasn't what it used to be. Simple tasks like reaching for items on high shelves, bending down to tie shoes, or even turning their heads to check blind spots while driving, had become more difficult. We made a straightforward change. Instead of buying pre-fried frozen foods, they started using fresh ingredients with gentler cooking methods. Instead of frozen nuggets, they cut fresh chicken into pieces and baked them with a light coating of breadcrumbs. Instead of frozen fries, they sliced fresh potatoes and roasted them in the oven. The preparation time was roughly the same, but the cooking method made all the difference. The results over the next 6 months were remarkable. Many reported that their flexibility improved noticeably. One gentleman told me he could reach the top cabinets in his kitchen again, without strain. A grandmother mentioned she could play on the floor with her grandchildren, without feeling stiff afterward. Several participants said their morning joint pain was significantly reduced, and they felt more confident moving around throughout the day. The key is understanding that you don't have to give up crispy, satisfying foods. You just need to prepare them differently. Fresh chicken baked in the oven can be just as crispy as frozen nuggets. And it takes about the same time when you factor in preheating and cooking. An air fryer can give you that satisfying crunch without the industrial processing. Even a simple pan sear with a little oil creates delicious results without those harmful compounds. When you're shopping, look out for anything labeled as pre-fried or par-fried on frozen foods. These terms mean the food has already been through that high-heat industrial process before it even reaches your kitchen. Instead, choose fresh proteins and vegetables, and use cooking methods that stay under 350 degrees when possible. Baking, roasting, steaming, and light sautéing all create delicious meals, without loading your joints with those damaging compounds. The habit that makes this change sustainable is weekend preparation. Spend a little time on Sunday preparing fresh proteins for the week. You can bread chicken pieces, cut vegetables for roasting, or prep other ingredients so that healthy cooking becomes just as convenient as reaching for that frozen package. Making this switch from processed frozen fried foods to fresh alternatives using gentler cooking methods can help preserve the flexibility and comfort in your joints for years to come. Now, this next trap is sneaky because it hides behind the idea that protein is always good for you. We've all been told to eat more protein as we age to maintain our muscle mass and strength. That advice is absolutely correct. But not all protein sources are created equal. The third frozen food trap that's quietly undermining your joint health comes disguised as a convenient protein solution. I'm talking about processed frozen meats. Those packages of hot dogs, sausages, bacon bits, and pre-sliced deli meats that sit in your freezer, ready to add protein to any meal. These products seem like smart choices because they're quick, they keep well, and they provide the protein your muscles need. But there's something hiding in these products that most people never think to look for, and it's causing more problems than you might imagine. The issue isn't the meat itself. It's the chemical preservatives that are added to keep these products shelf-stable and maintain their color and texture. The three main culprits are chemicals with complicated names TBHQ, BHA, and BHT. You don't need to memorize these names, but you do need to understand what they're doing to your body. These preservatives are designed to prevent the meat from spoiling, but they also interfere with your immune system in ways that can make your joint problems much worse. Here's how this works. Your immune system is like your body's security team. It's constantly patrolling to identify and deal with threats. When you regularly consume these preservatives, they confuse your immune system's signals. Instead of functioning smoothly, your immune system starts overreacting to normal situations, creating inflammation even when there's no real threat. This chronic low-level inflammation particularly affects your joints because they're sensitive areas where your immune system is already working hard to maintain healthy tissue. Recent studies have shown that these preservatives can affect multiple types of immune cells that are important for keeping inflammation under control. When these cells aren't working properly, you end up with persistent swelling and irritation in your joints, even when you haven't injured anything. It's like having a car alarm that goes off randomly. Your body's defense system is stuck in alert mode when it should be calm and balanced. Let me share what happened with a group of seniors who made a simple change. These folks ate processed frozen meats almost daily. Frozen sausage for breakfast, deli meat for lunch, bacon bits on salads. They thought they were making smart protein choices, but many dealt with persistent joint swelling. Their joint problems fluctuated without clear patterns, and small cuts seemed to heal slowly. We made one focused change. They replaced processed frozen meats with fresh alternatives. Instead of frozen sausages, they used fresh ground turkey seasoned with herbs. Instead of processed deli meat, they cooked extra chicken or roast beef on Sunday and sliced it for the week. Instead of bacon bits, they chopped up fresh cooked bacon or used nuts for salad toppings. The transformation over the next 10 to 12 weeks was impressive. The persistent joint swelling that had been bothering many of them started to subside. One man told me his knees felt less puffy, and he could walk upstairs more easily. A woman mentioned that her hands weren't as stiff in the mornings, and she could grip things more comfortably. Several people said they felt like their bodies were working with them again, instead of against them. The practical side of this change is simpler than you might think. When you buy fresh meat, you can cook larger portions and freeze what you don't use immediately. A whole chicken can provide several meals worth of protein, and it freezes just as well as processed alternatives. Ground turkey or beef can be seasoned and cooked in batches, then portioned out for easy use throughout the week. When you do buy packaged meats, become a label detective. Look for products that say no added preservatives or uncured. Yes, these options might cost a little more, but you're investing in keeping your immune system functioning properly. The weekend cooking habit really pays off here. Spending an hour on Sunday preparing fresh proteins gives you convenient options all week, without the chemical load. This switch, from processed frozen meats to fresh alternatives, helps your immune system work more efficiently, which means less unnecessary inflammation attacking your joints. The final trap might surprise you, because most people think of it as an occasional treat rather than a daily joint threat. We're talking about frozen baked goods and desserts. Those convenient pies, pastries, donuts, and even frozen coffee creamers that make life a little sweeter. Now, I'm not here to take away all of life's pleasures, but I do want you to understand how these seemingly innocent treats might be undermining the very foundation that supports your joints. Most people assume that desserts only affect your weight or blood sugar. What they don't realize is that many frozen baked goods contain a hidden ingredient that directly attacks your bone health. I'm talking about artificial trans fats, which you'll find listed on ingredient labels as partially hydrogenated oils. These aren't the natural fats your body needs. They're synthetic fats created through an industrial process that the FDA has actually declared unsafe for human consumption. Here's where this gets really concerning for your joints. These artificial trans fats don't just clog your arteries, they actively destroy vitamin K in your body. Now, you might be wondering why vitamin K matters for your joints. Think of vitamin K as the construction supervisor for your bones. It helps your body build strong bone proteins that create the solid foundation your joints depend on. Without adequate vitamin K, it's like trying to build a house with weak, crumbling concrete. Everything becomes unstable. When your bones lose their strength and density, your joints have to work much harder to support your body weight. The cartilage gets more stress. The ligaments have to compensate for wobbly bones, and your whole musculoskeletal system becomes less reliable. This is why people with weaker bones often experience more joint pain, balance problems, and that concerning feeling that their body just isn't as steady as it used to be. Recent research has shown just how widespread this problem is. Many popular frozen desserts, from pies to pastries to flavored coffee creamers, still contain these bone-weakening trans fats, despite growing awareness of their dangers. Even products labeled as trans fat-free on the front can legally contain small amounts if they use certain processing methods. I worked with a group of seniors who discovered this connection in a very personal way. These folks enjoyed frozen desserts 3 to 4 times a week. A frozen pie slice after dinner, a pastry with morning coffee, or flavored creamer to make their daily cup more enjoyable. They appreciated the convenience and portion control that frozen options provided. And honestly, these treats brought them joy during their daily routines. However, over time, many in this group started noticing subtle changes. Some felt less steady on their feet, especially when walking on uneven surfaces. Others mentioned that they'd become more cautious about stairs or worried about losing their balance. A few had experienced minor falls that left them feeling shaken and less confident about moving freely around their homes. When we made the connection between their daily frozen treats and these balance concerns, they decided to experiment with alternatives. Instead of frozen pies, they started making simple fruit crisps with oats and a touch of honey. Rather than processed pastries, they tried whole grain muffins made in batches on weekends. For coffee, they switched to natural creamers or simply added a splash of real cream and cinnamon. The changes over the next 4 to 5 months were remarkable. Many reported feeling more stable and confident when walking. One gentleman told me he stopped gripping the handrail so tightly when going upstairs. A woman mentioned she felt comfortable walking her small dog again, without worrying about being pulled off balance. Several people said they simply felt more solid and grounded in their movements. The practical side of this change is easier than you might think. When you're craving something sweet, fresh fruit with a small piece of dark chocolate can be incredibly satisfying. Simple baking, using real butter, coconut oil, or olive oil instead of processed ingredients, gives you homemade treats without the bone-damaging trans fats, even keeping frozen berries on hand for quick smoothies or warm compotes can satisfy that dessert craving. The key habit here is reading ingredient lists, even on products that claim to be healthy. If you see partially hydrogenated anything, that's your signal to choose something else. Many grocery stores now carry frozen desserts made with real ingredients, but you have to look for them specifically. Making this switch from processed frozen desserts to natural alternatives helps preserve the bone strength that keeps your joints stable and your movements confident. These 4 frozen food traps, the high-sodium dinners, the age-loaded fried foods, the preservative-heavy processed meats, and the bone-weakening desserts, work together to gradually undermine your body's foundation. So there you have it, the 4 frozen food traps that have been quietly working against your joints and muscles. High-sodium frozen dinners that create inflammation, processed fried foods that damage your cartilage with AGEs, preservative-heavy meats that disrupt your immune system, and trans fat desserts that weaken your bones. These traps work together to gradually undermine your body's foundation. But the good news is, you can reverse this damage. Your body has an incredible ability to heal when you give it the right support. I've seen seniors eliminate these frozen food traps and experience remarkable improvements. Less morning stiffness, better flexibility, stronger grip strength, and more confidence in their movements. Your joints and muscles are designed to serve you well. For decades, here's your action plan. Start this week by focusing on one trap, those high-sodium frozen dinners. Replace them with simple meal prep, keeping sodium under 600 milligrams per meal. Once that becomes routine, tackle the next trap. Small, consistent changes create the biggest improvements. You have more control over how you age than you realize. These simple food swaps can help your joints feel comfortable and your muscles stay strong for years to come. Which frozen food trap will you eliminate first? Share your plan in the comments below. I'd love to support your journey to stronger, healthier joints.